folks, and welcome back to the channel. We are out here in Weed Heights, Nevada, and we're out here for the Dead Man's Hand Poker Run put on by the Pine Nut Mountain Trail Association and the Nevada Off-Road Association. So we are headed to the start point right now. We've already gotten registered, signed in, and everything else. It's going to be a 57-mile loop. It should be a lot of fun, so stick around, and we'll go out and play in the desert. All right, we are here at the start point, and I'm not sure what the holdup is. I don't remember if we get a poker card here or not, but we will find out when we get up there. From what I understand, we've got, I think, almost 100 people signed up for this. We got everything from Jeeps, you know, JKs and side-by-sides, and one M151. You can see, folks, we got a heck of a line, and we got way more people coming. This is going to be a fun day out in the desert.
We can go back to, go ahead.
All right, well, we got our first card, which was 9 of hearts. We'll see how we do by the end of today. This first section here, we're going to be going up a pretty steep canyon. So it's going to be first and second gear all the way up. Now, one of the other things we're going to have to be watching is we're going to have to be watching our mirrors pretty close. There's going to be a lot of guys in their side-by-sides that are a lot faster than we are, and so we're going to have to kind of keep an eye out for them and, you know, watch for a good place to pull off to let them go by. This isn't a race, but you know, some of these guys, you know, they've paid a lot of money for their side-by-sides, and you know, they want to go fast, even though technically the speed limit on BLM land is 35 miles an hour, unless you have a special permit for like a race or something like that, and then they end up closing the course to other people, so that you know nobody who's not involved with the race gets hurt. And so they're supposed to be keeping it at 35 miles an hour. We'll see. Now we are in the canyon, and it is steep and loose, so you can hear we're gonna go from second gear up to third, you know, it really bogs down. That's one nice thing about this old 151 is it still has a lot of low end torque, and so it'll still pull at the lower RPMs. folks, we are up here kind of at the top of the mountain, and you can see over off to the east, you can see the dust way down yonder, people coming up. And then we've got people coming by us, and we've got a beautiful view over to the west and of the Sierra Mountains, Sierra Nevadas, down toward the south and the west. The mountain range that's closest to us there is the Pine Nuts, and then over there is the Sierra Nevadas. So we're going to get back on the road here. All right, so we're starting down the hill. We're only a few miles in, so we still got a long ways to go today. But it sure is beautiful country up here. Yep, that was a big rock. Got by that one guy there, and so I think that the side-by-sides that are up ahead of us are going to start stretching it out a little bit. Now, for some of you that may have watched a bunch of my videos from way back, might recognize this. This is part of the VORRA stomping grounds course. And so one of the reasons why, you know, there's a few rocks, extra rocks maybe on the course, but honestly, I've been four-wheeling up in this area for 30-something years, and these roads are always like this. Doesn't matter. relatively smooth running on Delphi Lane. I think we're going to be running a couple miles down this road here. It's pretty smooth and easy, but a little ways up here, you got to be real careful because it'll come back and get you. The side of the road is really soft, and just about 3/4 of a mile back up the road a little ways, or it might have been out or around in here somewhere, my brother 35 years ago rolled his 75 Jeep Cherokee out here. Was trying to do a Dukes of Hazzard maneuver and got off into the soft stuff on the side and put it right over on its side. So these roads can be really deceptive. You know, when you're on the road, it's real hard packed, but anything that's right off to the side is soft, really soft, and it'll grab you and it'll put you upside down in a hurry. And out here along this road somewhere is where I buried my first dog. Good old Daisy, she was a good pup. That was that same weekend that my brother rolled his truck. This whole area that we just went through was a town site and mine site of Ludwig. Ludwig was a copper mine back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And there was also a small gypsum pit there. Well, a few years ago, a company came in and took over mining of the gypsum. And from what, you know, they pulled gypsum out for a couple of years, and looks like they still have some big piles of it there. But from what I understand, they're no longer, you know, it's not active anymore. But this area up here was an area that my dad had heard about and was looking for. Before I moved up here, and they came up here while I was at annual training down at Camp San Luis Obispo that year, and he had come up here, and he had always loved this area, and he knew that I loved this area up here. And so over just to the south of us, and we won't pass by it, but was the shop building that had a space for rent. And so when I got home from summer camp and they were back home from family vacation, my dad told me, "Oh, and by the way, I rented you a shop up in Nevada." I said, "Really?" And within a week or two, I had a truckload of stuff and I was packed up and on my way up here. And that, as they say, is history. And so that's how I became a Nevadan. 35 years ago, 36 years ago, almost now. And don't regret it at all. This was one of the areas that I used to come out to all the time. Friends of mine and I, matter of fact, my first date with my son's mother was right back there up at that mine. And the road in and out of here ain't got no better, but it ain't got no worse. How you doing? Just fine.
Laying in a car, let me see, hold that, and you can reach in there and speak a quick one.
All right, folks. What we have here is a well and a water trough for animals. Now, what is significant about this? You see them all the time out here in the desert. All right, there is the well pump. Now it looks like they have somebody's busted some stuff off, and it ain't the way it used to be. But there was a time back many years ago, I came out here with my Jeep pickup truck, full-size Jeep pickup truck. I got out here and noticed that the temperature gauge was spiking on it. It was pretty bad. It had gotten pretty hot, and I had no water in the Jeep with me. But what I did have was this well pump here. And it had another mechanism on it with a wheel on it. And I was able to go ahead and spin that wheel by hand and get water to come out over there at the end here. Put it in a cup and slowly refilled my radiator. So for all of those of you that spend time out here in the desert, it's a good idea to make note of where this kind of stuff is at, because it could save your bacon one day. I thought I had the cameras going for that last card stop, but I guess I didn't. So
You got a relay?
well, we ended up letting a whole lot of folks get by while we were stopped there fixing batteries and changing cameras and stuff.
Are you back on Weatherman?
So we're going to be stuck in the middle of the traffic for the rest of the run, I think. Yeah, that was almost a big bad screw up there. What happens, you get moving along at a certain pace and get a little complacent, and that's when bad things can happen. All right, now we are headed up to the east side, or west side, excuse me, of the Minnesota mine. If you go back in the archives, I did a video of coming up here to the Minnesota mine. This is kind of a fun little section here. We're not going to stop here and take a look around because I'll go ahead and throw a link up somewhere to the video I did when I brought private parts up here a few years ago. And honestly, it ain't changed.
parts. Private parts are major pain. Which is it?
Yeah, pretty much. All of the above.
There we go.
All right. I'm gonna let these guys go ahead of me. one more behind him. And one more behind them. Wait for their dust to clear a little bit, and yep, keep on moving. Oh, I did not realize there was somebody out here with an old Class 12 buggy. At any rate, we are just about at the top of the hill here. So I decided to stop and kind of give you guys a little bit of a view of the valley. You can't see right down there where all the houses and stuff are lined up. That is where we started out at this morning. That is the old Anaconda pit with the water in the background, and that is much deeper. That water is deep, several hundred feet deep there. And that all is the settling ponds and things like that from the mine. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started here. And we got a little bit more of a climb to go, not much, and then we'll be headed back down to the finish line and our last card stop. Now this is going to be the last place that that they're going to be able to get by me until we get down to the bottom of this hill. And this is the last real steep climb that we've got before we crest the peak and start heading down to the finish line. What's up, guys?
How's it going?
It's going good.
64?
Yep.
So how was the ride?
It was nice. It was easy peasy.
Last one.
So what year is this?
It is a, according to the data plate, it's a 62.
62.
Have a good one. All right, guys, that's it. So we are going to head back to the main area there and turn in our card, our poker card. And we got crap for a poker hand, so. Boy, howdy, look at all of these trailers and look at all of these rigs. So when I got to the end, the ending clip of this video as I was editing it, I realized I hadn't done an outro. So here it is. First of all, I want to thank Pine Nut Mountain Trail Association and the Nevada Off-Road Association, everybody associated with that put this event on. City of Yerington, there were a whole lot of people that donated raffle prizes and things like that to make this a success. There was over 100 vehicles, over 200 people that came out for this poker run. It was a lot of fun. My poker hand, however, was crap. I had 2 10s, a 9, a 5, and then a king, I think. Not good enough to be any of the good hands, and too good to be the absolute worst hand. So it is what it is. I still had a lot of fun, and I hope that you guys all really enjoyed this video. And for those of you who have made it all the way to the end here, thank you all for watching. Thanks, for subscribing, and I really appreciate all of your viewers. At any rate, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. When you subscribe, hit that little bell so that you get notifications of all the videos, when they drop. At any rate, thanks again. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.